Welcome to the first ever Recovery Road podcast. I am so happy that you are here. Wow. Welcome to the first ever episode of the Recovery Road podcast. I'm glad you're all here. My name's Matt and I'm an addict. And I'd just like to welcome Ryan, has kindly agreed to be the first ever person on the podcast talking about recovery. Thank you so much for agreeing to come along and do this, Ryan. I really appreciate it. And welcome. And how you doing?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm alright. I'm not too bad. So, how did you get into recovery? What's your journey? What was the first time you thought, hang on a minute, things are not going quite right here?
It's a long one, really. Do you know, basically, I just spent years smashing my life to bits, using drugs, different substances. You know, all the consequences that came with it were never sufficient enough, you know, for me to stop using. I nearly lost my life. I ended up in coma, given 48 hours to live. Spent weeks and weeks healing up in the hospital, and all I was thinking about in that hospital was, I can't wait to use. Do you know? And the doctor said, if you do anything like that again, you'll be back in here. You won't survive. You're lucky to have got out. And that night I went and used, and a couple of days later I'm in a kitchen snorting cocaine with a chest drain hanging out my arm. You know, tried stopping for my child, and that weren't enough. And you know, even from a very early age, like the first time I ever used a substance was alcohol. I was 11. It was at my mum's wedding. I went into a blackout and destroyed everything. Do you know what I mean? At 11 years old, and from that day, you know, I went into a full flight addiction. A love affair, as some people call it, you know, with drugs and alcohol, and it was just painful. I smashed my life to bits, like I said, and I just thought I'd be that way forever. I couldn't see a way out. Every way that I tried to stop, you know, was never sufficient enough. There may have been periods where I might have got a week or a few days, and then I'd fall apart at the seams, and use again. Do you know what I mean? I was hopeless. There's literature that we look at where it says, you know, there are those who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. You know, it also says, like, to face an addiction, death, or to live a spiritual life isn't an easy alternative to face. Do you know what I mean? And to a normal person would have been able to stop with all that going on in their life. And
That was the question I was going to ask you, actually. Now you're saying that, so that was the missing thing, do you think? At that point in your life, the missing thing was you being honest about what was going on, or what did you think? What did you think was missing at that point in your life that you've obviously got now that you didn't have back then?
A rock bottom, really. Right. Do you know, rock bottom, like because for people like us, you can put me through the mill. You know, I can experience everything under the sun that would be seen as traumatic or tragic, and that still won't be sufficient enough for me to not use again. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't have that mental capability of remembering what it was like. I don't have that mental capability of, you know, thinking, oh my, it's getting a bit heavy here, maybe I should stop. Do you know, my head just tells me more. It'll be different this time. Do you know? And I just, one night, I can't remember exactly the circumstances. I just remember falling to my knees, and I just remember thinking, I can't do this anymore. Do you know what I mean? I physically cannot carry on doing this anymore. And it wasn't like anything outside of myself that did that. Do you know what I mean? It was like a gift from God, as we call it. It was, you know, an absolute gift. You know, and it's ironic because that was probably the most painful experience of my life. There was nothing left inside anymore. Do you know? And I thought as soon as I get up, I'm going into my local town, which was miles and miles away, and I'm going to get some help. Do you know what I mean? And I did, and now looking back at it, I see that as you know, a surrender and a real throwing in the towel and a conceding to me in the most self, as we speak about. You know, the ordeal brought me to my knees. You know, the whole thing, years of, you know, that lifestyle and stuff. It really killed me. You know.
Just thinking back about what you were saying about, you know, being in hospital, being on a life support machine. And because I remember someone talking, I remember someone saying, "Oh, Ryan's not very well." You know, it's touch and go with Ryan at the moment. I was thinking before you came actually about like what was, you know, how your mum must have been thinking at the time. You know, feeling, seeing you there like that, and then a couple of weeks later, like you said, when you get out, going back to doing what you didn't want to do again.
Yeah.
Have you ever spoken to, say, your mum about that sort of side? Did you manage to?
Yeah, I did, yeah. You know, when I sort of made amends through this spiritual process that I went through, and you know, I think that's the biggest amends I ever had to make was I robbed people of emotional security.
Yeah.
And you can't put a price on that, do you know what I mean? You can't put a price on what you put your family through and the people you love through, you know. That just speaks volumes about the grave nature of what we suffer with, really, is, you know, if someone can go through something like that, any normal person would definitely be like, wow, I've nearly died here. It's time to change, you know. Normal person would never even dream of doing that again, do you know?
Yeah.
When I come to in that hospital, there was family members visiting me who to this day I've still not seen. Do you know what I mean? I've still not seen them. People turning up out of the woodwork, like, oh, you know, there to support me and stuff. And I've not seen them again. You know, because I was the type that was regarded as hopeless. You know, that's what I was, man. And you know, when you think about that kind of stuff, you know, about what I put them through. Yeah, to watch somebody you love sort of suffer in that way, and it must be really painful, you know. And when you sit back in retrospect and think about it, what you put them through and all that, you know, like my mum understands today, and my family and stuff, they understand, like, you know, but it's still, I can't believe I was like that, you know. Like, I'm a different person, like, utterly. It's been a 180-degree change from the person what I was to who I am now, and I look back and I'm not deeply ashamed for what I did, because I can't be, you know, and that's a process that you have to go through in recoveries.
What was the 12-step process allows you on step 9 to make an amends to people that you've harmed, clear up the wreckage of your past. How was that? Did you and your sponsor decide that you had that amends towards your mum, and how did that go, if you did?
Yeah,
Or how did you deal with
definitely.
that kind of that amend, and what was it like?
I firmly believe that, you know, anyone who comes in recovery has definitely got an amends to make to the mum, you know, and the
Yeah,
family, you
yeah,
know, almost certainly, unless they've passed away. I have many amends, you know. I've still got amends that I'm willing to make. Some of them are situations that are very tender and can't be approached as of now, you know, even so far down the line, because I've done that much damage
yeah,
to people, you know, that, you know, like our literature sort of speaks about, you know, if it's going to create more harm to me or another,
yeah,
then we can't, and that amends will present itself in time, you know. But there's certain things I've done that I most certainly can't go and just make amends for right now. There's certain amounts of money that I can't just go and pay back, you know, until I've saved it up, you know, because it's that high. So me and my sponsor, we looked at the amends, what are doable, and I went out and did them face to face. I stated the exact nature of my wrongs. I didn't make it about me. I didn't say, yeah, but it was, you know, I've done this, and this. I'm deeply sorry for my actions. How may I make this right? You know, how may I make this right? And with no motive behind them. And it's a very freeing process, you know. I firmly believe that we have to trust that process, and that the steps are in the order they are for a reason and stuff. I think the amends to my mother and my sister was the most emotional ones.
I was going to ask you, yeah, was it emotional?
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of them. It's rarely I cry. You know, I don't know why. I can't cry. I'm not a crier. Something has to spark inside me to cry. You know, and I really did that day, and my mum did too. And you know, it was a beautiful thing, mate. You know.
Did your relationship with her change after that?
Yeah. There's a lot more trust there. You know.
Yeah.
It was an honour to just text her every day and ask her if she's all right, and not having to worry, and not, you know, having to ask for something or whatever.
When I did my amends with my parents, after it, we were a lot more relaxed with each other. You know, it didn't feel like people. No, they were just more relaxed and a bit more chilled, and wasn't so tense and stuff like that. And the relationship definitely changed. I tell you what, the biggest thing I've learned as well is to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah.
And listen to my parents more than I talk to them. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I realised, like, I went round there and I just talked a load of shit about what I was doing. Oh, aren't I great? I'm doing this, I'm doing that.
Yeah.
And then I'd walk out the door thinking, I didn't ask them once how they were.
Yeah.
You know, it just like awakens you to that kind of thing. And it's just a small thing, but it makes such a difference. Because I found now that my dad actually opens up to me more about his feelings and emotions now by me being quiet.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. It's the way we behave, isn't it? And, you know, that's why people like us can't get clean without a program, because, you know, when we do stop using, we have a whole other set of problems.
Yeah.
Do you know? My life gets worse.
Yeah.
That's addiction. My life gets worse when I get clean, because I've no anaesthetic to deal with all these unknown feelings and stuff. And then, like, even 2 years down the line, I'm still learning, and you know, it's not an easy process. Do you know? I'm like that unspiritual. Like, by default, I'm like not spiritual at all. You know, I'm self-willed, run riot, selfish, self-centered to the core, inconsiderate. You know, and it's a battle to stay awake.
And there's some of your good points.
I firmly believe that. You know, it's a battle to stay awake. The difference is that I am a different person, but there's things that I'm learning every day. There's things that we need to learn every day. You know, I need to have that mindset of, you know, I'm constantly learning. Because I can just make mistakes without even knowing I'm doing them, and create harms by accident and stuff like that. It happens frequently, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's a very, very it's something you got to put a lot of work into. I don't believe that no matter how long you've been doing this stuff, no matter how long you've stayed clean, I don't believe that you ever get rid of all your defects. I don't believe that, you know, I just don't believe that. I think it's always a wrestle with step 3 for all of us. I was in a relationship recently, for the first time ever clean, and I fucked it right up. Do you know? And I didn't even know that I was upsetting the person. You know, I thought I was being good and doing and being nice. And then she pointed out all these things, and I had to have that experience of losing someone really precious to me and someone that I really cared about and loved in order to learn how to be in a relationship.
Mm.
Do you know? I had to create arms to learn. But the thing is that this sort of spiritual life and this program, it's a daily reprieve and it's on a daily basis. You know, I'm much better than what I was like when I was using. But it's tough still, and a lot of action has to be put in, and a lot of awareness has to, you know, the obsession to use has been removed. It's not a battle. I'm not clinging on for dear life. I don't wake up in the morning and think, what have I got to do today to get, you know, but there's still that unmanageable side that's always trying to kick in, you know.
Yeah, that's the biggest delusion, isn't it? Like, I just thought I had to put everything down. I thought I just had to put the drink and drugs down and then my life will get better. But like you were saying, and it's my experience as well, that, you know, that's when the work really starts. I've got to deal with life without my solution. That was my solution to all my problems, was to have a drink or have a drug. And that just sorted everything out.
Yeah.
And to do it, to live life on life's terms without all of that, it's really painful if I let it. And like you, I feel like I've got a program now that will, but I still sometimes refuse to use it. This program's been given to me for free and it's completely changed my life. But some days I choose not to use it.
Yeah.
And that's insanity, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just want to talk to you about your music a little bit, because I know I got into recovery and I started doing stuff that I've never done before. One would be in art and painting and stuff like that. I really got into that. And you've kind of done a similar sort of thing, but with music. Just maybe speak a little bit about what music has done for you, maybe in your recovery or given to you, or is it just a byproduct of you being clean, or does it add anything to your recovery?
Well, I've been making hip hop for like 6 years now.
Right.
So before I was even in recovery, I was making hip hop. There's a line in some literature and it says, golf permitted drinking.
Yeah.
We all know where that's from. You know, and hip hop permitted using, you know, and the lifestyle that come with it. I loved it, you know. That's not why I got into it, you know. I've always been into it from a very young age and stuff. So it wasn't necessary. It's not a byproduct of being clean. But I will definitely say that when I got clean and I straightened out mentally and physically, my songwriting become a lot more intricate and a lot more in depth, and I've definitely progressed a hell of a lot over like, you know, 17 months.
It's a big myth, isn't it? And it's a romantic view of the arts in general, where I think because you get massive icons like, you know, people that die young, say in the music industry, you've got the 27 Club, and, you know, all the people that I used to look up to were heavily into drink and drugs, and they proclaimed that, you know, that was part of the lifestyle, and that's what made them the way they were and stuff. And maybe they had a point, but for me, it's one of the biggest myths, because I thought, because I was into music as well and used to play in bands and stuff, and I never ever did a gig sober, never ever, and I thought it was all part of the process. But then you get clean and sober in it, and you realise it's a lie. You know, it is a lie. There's certain things like, I don't know, have you ever performed live?
Yeah.
Sober?
No.
No.
Yeah, we have actually. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the old nerves kick in, and obviously when I was using, the thing that would straighten that out would be to get as drunk as I could, kind of thing. And but now, I feel I'm much more productive, and so your songwriting, do you think that's so tell me a bit more about that side of stuff and how it links into your recovery, or I know you've spoke about it just a bit then, but
So I do like to I do use a lot of recovery, spiritual, messages in my music. But I'm a concept writer, so that's all I do is concepts. So I won't ever make anything abstract or anything like that. So I'll think to myself, what's this song gonna be about? And then I'll make sure every line relates to that subject. And if people listen to my music and listen closely, they'll hear that I don't really go off subject once. So I've made many tracks about recovery, but I've done it in a very subtle way, because we do remain anonymous and stuff like that.
yeah.
I think I released a single early in called Closer to God. That was probably the nearest to I was quoting literature and everything in that track, and it was a good track. Like I've come a long way since that, but yeah, it does inspire me. It gives me, how can I explain it? A lot of my stuff's got God in it, if that makes sense. A lot of my stuff's got God in it. A lot of my stuff's got wisdom that's taken, out of literature and out of what we speak about, in the meetings and all that. So yeah, man.
How does
Recovery.
how does the spirituality side of recovery, how does, you're talking about God, how does that play a part in your recovery?
It plays everything, So once the work's done, the work isn't done. Do you know what I mean? And it's got to continue forever, every single day. And one of the biggest points that are expressed in the literature that I use to take people through the 12 and that I was took through the 12 is that we must enlarge our spiritual life.
Yeah.
Which is through many things, there's all kinds of aspects to it. And, this program can go really deep if you let it. I'm one of them. I'm a bit of a deep one when it comes to it. I struggle keeping it simple, like they speak about, enlarging the spiritual life, loads of meditation. So I can be doing loads of meditation, loads of prayers, loads of inventories, loads of stuff, and then going out into life and just being a dick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And making mistakes and creating harms. And it's all a balance. It's all like, it's whatever work I do on paper and prayer and all that side of stuff, it has to be put into action as well.
Yeah, it's got to be transposed out there, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I talk about it a lot. I get asked to share sometimes that it was a really massive penny drop moment for me. My recovery was just in a meeting.
Yeah.
And I was just going from meeting to meeting and trying to survive on the vapours of each meeting to get to the next meeting kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? And when someone pointed out to me that actually your program is out there, not in the meeting. Obviously, you've got to, in a meeting, I was going to a meeting and practicing the 12 steps, but then when I come out of the meeting, still being an idiot out there and like treating people, someone was saying, "Oh, would you treat a newcomer like you treated that person in the queue of the bank or whatever?" You know what I mean? And that was where it started turning around for me. Like, right, I've got to do this out there, and that will make me a lot more happier.
Yeah.
I didn't realise it's obvious, isn't it? It's an obvious thing, but I just did not realise that.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Well, I remember saying before about sort of how I got in this that relationship and I made many mistakes and I sort of brought it to its knees, if that makes sense. Not brought it to its knees, but it ultimately failed. It might come back. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm still speaking with this person and stuff like that. But I made mistakes and I had to do that in order to learn. And the book speaks about like a greater demonstration of these principles lies in our home occupations and affairs. And what you just spoke about, I totally relate to being like that in the meeting. I missed a meeting when I get there and, "Hi, how you doing? Da da da." And the way I was in that relationship, the way I've been in places where I've volunteered, the way I've been, in my homes and, what I've just spoke about has been different. I've tried to, but, the thing is that I think we get comfortable or something like that. I can't explain it, man. I think we just fall asleep at the wheel, you know what I mean? And we end up being unmindful. That's a lot of my stuff, unmindful, do you know what I mean? I'll do something selfish and not realise I've done it, or I'll be really inconsiderate and only thinking about myself, which is the nature of this illness. I'm just laughing because when you were speaking about music before, there's a line in literature and it says, I stilled my wife's forebodings by telling her that men conceived the greatest projects while drunk.
Yeah. Going back to that romantic notion that...
Good old Bill. Yeah, it's funny, that was my idea. My justifications, as to why I can use, really. I firmly believe that this stuff just has to be worked every day. It has to be worked on and worked on. You're going to make mistakes no matter what.
What's, just going a bit back to the beginning again, but what do you think what's the main thing about this time? Because you're over 2 years now, did you say?
No, nearly
2 years.
Yeah.
Is that the longest you've ever stayed clean?
Yeah.
So what is it about this time that's different to all the other times? How many times did you try before to get to?
I tried many times, but it was like a day or an hour.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the main component? For instance, if you took that piece out of your recovery, you'd go back to the way you were, kind of thing. What do you think is the main?
That rock bottom, that internal rock bottom that I spoke about.
Yeah. So if you hadn't have had that,
and it's a true understanding of what I suffer with combined with the rock bottom.
Yeah. Yeah, because you asked a lot of people, in recovery, what makes you an addict? What makes you an alcoholic? And a lot of people don't know, me included, for many, many years. I would say I'm an alcoholic, or I would say I'm an addict. I didn't really know which one, what one was.
Yeah, most people just...
If you ask me any more than that, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Most people start spouting unmanageability, don't they?
Yeah.
Which is that's as a result of being an addict.
Yeah.
And
like you say a lot, and I remember you've said it a lot in the past. Knowledge won't keep me. I'm still going. Not knowledge won't. You say it a lot in your shares, and when I've heard you, you say knowledge won't keep me clean. The fact that I know, for instance, I've got an allergy of the body and an obsession of the mind. My body is biologically different from the average temperate drinker and all this kind of stuff. Even that,
yeah.
And you could, and I think you said before, and I agree with, and I've heard other people say, meetings won't keep you clean. The fact, and I like, I was going back to what I said about the penny drop moment for me. Oh, shit, I've got to do this stuff out there as well, not just in the meeting. And I can't remember my question, but yeah, I remember you saying it. And it sort of cemented it for me, really.
Yeah. Yeah, knowledge is just knowledge, isn't it? Knowledge isn't understanding.
Yeah.
It's like if I walk out into the road now and a lorry's going to hit me, I just know to move out of the way. I don't have to think about it. Should I move? Will it kill me? I just move.
You intuitively know what to do.
Know what to do, yeah. And that's understanding. You know what I mean? There's a difference between intellectually knowing something and understanding it. And I feel like that's what rock bottom gives you. And then when you do go through sort of the work and get a true understanding of the first step, I believe that can sink deep into into your being and stuff like that. And I have to have a true knowledge and nature of what I suffer with. I have to have that, but I have to have the understanding of what I suffer with as well. Which is that obsession of the mind and the allergy of the body and the spiritual malady. But what is that? Do you know what I mean? And there's so many different aspects to that. You know what I mean? But ultimately, the obsession is the reason why I can't stay stopped. You know what I mean? It convinces me that this time it's going to be different. I've got like this research and development centre in my own brain that comes up with new reasons and new justifications as to why I can use again. And the spiritual maladies going along with that as well, which is like this discomfort and this horrible feeling inside, usually in my stomach and inside me. And it's just, the best way I can describe it is just discomfort, like sleeping on sandpaper, and I need to cure that. I need to get rid of that. And that's how I know my whole life I've been seeking God, because when I used, it freed up that spiritual malady. It gave me a synthetic spiritual experience.
Yeah.
And then what the allergy does, once the obsessions convince me it's all right to use, I use, and then the obsession goes, you're a dick, why did you just use? Might as well have 10 more. And then the allergy just keeps going more. And it's like, it says, the addict is using to overcome a craving beyond his mental control. And that really sums up the allergy for me. Like, I don't understand. It can't even be put into words other than that sentence. It's like, it's beyond my mental control. There's no saying what's going to happen. Do you know what I mean?
So when was your moment of coming to believe? We kind of was talking about steps, and we've kind of sort of covered step one on that one, on your answer and what you just spoke about then. But the next one is sort of step two and coming to believe. When was your moment of, wow, there might be something in this?
Well, I've always believed in God. Do you know what I mean? But the thing is, and it's a very, very, there's no beating around the bush with this stuff. There's no conversation to be had around it. But if you go into a meeting, there will be plenty of conversations had around it. And it's point blank this, right? If you get step one, if you've had the rock bottom and the surrender, you've nowhere else to turn.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's a no-brainer.
You're kind of you're surrendered to the next step then, aren't you?
Yeah.
Almost.
If you understand step one, the rest of this work becomes automatic. Do you know what I mean? I'm on my knees. I've already come to believe. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've already done that before I even got to the point where I'm sat sort of going through a book with someone, because the desperation's there. It's like when I go to a meeting and I see someone new, I can see that desperation in someone.
Yeah.
And I know when someone's going to use again and when there's not. That sounds bad, but it's true. You know when someone's going to use again, man, because they're not desperate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. There is something beautiful about being in that pocket where you're desperate to go to any lengths and do anything. At that point when I've just come back from a relapse and fully conceded, I'm in that sweet spot. I'm hungry, really hungry for recovery, and I'm ready to do the work.
Yeah.
And it's a really nice spot to be in. You've got to smash and lose everything. Smash life to pieces and lose everything. But I think I knew from the first ever meeting, that 12-step fellowship meeting I ever went to, I felt there was a solution in this room. There was something other than just the people in the room kind of thing.
Definitely.
There were people that were talking about, they were telling my story, but they were happy, joyous and free kind of thing. And that was really attractive. And it wasn't bullshit, like I do a lot of bullshitting, not as much as I used to, but I do. And you can kind of, smell it out yourself, but it just felt really honest.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who's new in that are thinking about maybe doing the steps or getting into 12-step fellowship, going to meetings. So maybe they've just come out of prison or rehab or is interested. What would be your advice to them?
Just do the work. You know what I mean? Pray in the morning. Ask God to sort of keep you clean. Phone people, write gratitude list. Thank him at night for keeping you clean, But you'll know, deep down, every addict knows. So when you hear people talking about this gift of desperation, you know if you've got that or not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If you've got that, cling on for dear life.
Yeah.
Because that's what's gonna, you just surrender to this stuff, like do it. If God's granted you that surrender, then put your everything into it, do the work, and ask somebody who seems like they're armed with the facts about themselves and know what they're speaking about. Ask somebody who's going to get you through this work fast so you can get that obsession removed,
Yeah.
I didn't have time to mess about. I went through this work fast, do you know what I mean? And I've been through it many times since.
Yeah. I'm a big believer of getting to steps 10, 11 and 12 as quickly as possible and get into the solution of the program and live in those maintenance. People call it the maintenance steps, people call it solution steps. But getting to that point, like you said, when you're armed with the facts, you've fully surrendered and you've put the work in, you know where your defects of character are, you know what's going on. And you can always go back and do some work on, brush up on other steps. But yeah. Well, I reckon we can end it there as the first episode of the Recovery Road podcast. I appreciate your friendship, Ryan. I appreciate you saying yes to coming and being the first ever victim on the podcast. And I appreciate your friendship and the words that you say as well. Everything you say normally lands with me. So I appreciate that.
Cheers, buddy.
And I'm sure I'll get you in another time to talk again.
Thank you so much for listening all the way to the end of this very first episode of the Recovery Road podcast. Nope. So I hope to interview lots more interesting people that are in recovery. So please like, comment and subscribe to the channel and be the first to hear the new podcasts that come out each week. Potentially more often. It would really help grow the channel and reach more people that hopefully are maybe thinking about getting into recovery. Thank you so much and I look forward to welcoming you to the next Recovery Road podcast. Love you. Bye.